Here's a hot take for you. The Dodgers are going to hit a lot of home runs this year. Shohei Ohtani is going to hit a lot of home runs this year. How many and how many will the others hit? Let's talk about it. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. This is a daily podcast covering the World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. You can make that easier on yourself by subscribing to get notified when episodes are ready, or to get notified when we're going live on YouTube like we are here right now on Sunday nights. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. I'm Vince Samperio. That's Jeff Snider. And Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that have covered the team for over a decade and been doing this podcast going into season 7 and a Dodger podcast a little longer than that. And Jeff, I know last week we talked about spring training results and the Dodgers losing and everything else and me not caring. But I will now admit that when the Dodgers hit, Dalton Rushing hit the walk-off the other day and the Dodgers won more games than they lost this weekend, I did find myself a little bit happier.
It's definitely more fun to watch your favorite team win, even when the games don't matter. We're not going to stress too much about losses, but yeah, a win is always more fun than a loss. I actually didn't get to see Dalton Rushing's walk-off hit live. We were out celebrating my son's birthday a couple days early. My son turned 18 today. Happy birthday, Logan. But I did see the highlights or saw the notification. So then when I got home, I watched that inning, and yeah, it's fun. It's not quite World Series level fun, but it is fun to watch the boys wearing Dodger blue win baseball games.
Yeah, they did a lot of winning this weekend, including 2 wins on Sunday and a split squad games. But what we want to talk about is the Dodgers' power and the home runs. And we saw a lot of home runs this weekend by guys that we expect to hit a lot of home runs during the season. Shohei Ohtani hit a home run in his first at-bat of the spring. Freddie Freeman had a couple home runs over the weekend. We had Teoscar Hernandez home run Sunday, among others. But it got us thinking about power numbers in general. We know the Dodgers are going to hit a lot of home runs. We know that they are going to be very successful on the offensive side. But, Ohtani, Freeman, and Teo collectively and individually have questions about just how much power it'll be. And I guess we can start with Ohtani. Last year, 50-50 season. This year, we know he's going to pitch. We know that he still hit 40-plus homers before in a season where he has pitched. What are we thinking for Ohtani, not just hitting-wise, but power-wise? Is it, is pitching or having a different focus going to change anything on that end?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I think it will change the focus. And I think last year was a career year in a lot of ways for him. I think it's a really safe bet that the stolen bases won't be anywhere near the 59 that he had last year. But home runs, 54 home runs, like you said, the last 3 years with the Angels in which he pitched all 3 of those years, he hit 44, 34, and 46. And, so that's an average of a little over 40 home runs a year. I feel like that's kind of the baseline. Like you expect at least 40 home runs for Ohtani. I feel like that's what I expect from him, even in a year when he's pitching. Obviously, all of this is assuming that he remains healthy, but 40 to 45 home runs is kind of what I expect. And I wouldn't be surprised if he threatens 50. The Dodgers record was 49 until Shohei broke it last year. I expect by the end of this 10-year contract for the top 3 or 4 home run seasons in Dodger history to be Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest differences between the Angels and Dodgers is, one, lineup protection. As some people believe in it wholeheartedly, maybe some people don't. But the fact of the matter is, like, the Dodgers are a better team, and you are gonna have to throw him more fastballs or better pitches because you don't want to put him on base because you got, Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and Teoscar Hernandez coming to the plate after that. So, he's going to get more pitches just by that realm. So that should help out with the power numbers. And, as much as Ohtani's a competitor, I got to imagine when you're losing so much, especially when you get into like July, August, September, you're already out of the race and you come up to bat and it's really hot and you're down 9-2 and it's, seventh, eighth inning or whatever it is. You might not be as juiced as you were or will be being with the Dodgers playing for, the division or the most win or whatever it is. Like there'll always be something to play for on the Dodgers end. So.
Yeah. And it's also worth noting that last year, Ohtani had 731 plate appearances, which was 65 more than his previous career high. And maybe that number does go back down some this year because they'll probably give him more days off than the 3 he got last year. Yeah. But, you still expect he's going to get more plate appearances, batting leadoff the whole season. He's going to have 700 plate appearances. And so, he hit 46 home runs in just 639 plate appearances in 2021. You throw in an extra 61 plate appearances, that's an extra 6 home runs for Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah. So I don't expect, if there is a dip, it might be just natural from the fact that your legs are a little more tired on days after you pitch, or the Dodgers do give him more days off, whatever it is. But ultimately, I don't expect the power, maybe per plate appearance, to really drop too much.
Yeah.
When it comes to Freddie Freeman, you always start thinking about things when you see stuff, especially in the spring or whenever, you have something in your mind. And with Freddie, I'm starting to think if like the postseason last year and just kind of the way he had to change up how he either what he looked for or, what his power stroke was. And with the 2 home runs he's hit so far in the spring being like no doubters, which is not something, Freddie Freeman's necessarily known for. I wonder if we're going to see more power from Freddie this year.
And I've wondered since then, the fact that he made a change to his swing to accommodate the injuries that he had, and that's what allowed him to break out in the World Series. It's had me wondering ever since October, or I guess early November, when we found out about the extent of his injuries and what he had done. Like, is he going to use that new approach? And is it something that he can turn on and off? Because what we're seeing is dude can turn on an inside pitch now, whereas Freddie Freeman traditionally, you think of him, that inside pitch just poking it to left field, either for a single or a double. But the fact that now he can turn on those, and you got to remember, this is Freddie Freeman, who has a 38 home run season, a 31 home run season, a 34 home run season in his career. The he's big and strong. And, he might just be at a point in his career. He's like, I want to hit 40 home runs. I want to see what I can do there. And maybe the batting average goes down a little, but it might be fun to see what Freddie can do if he decides to be a home run hitter for a year.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking. Like, not necessarily, like if it's bottom of the 8th and there's 2 runners on and the Dodgers down by 1, I don't know if I necessarily go to that, but he's such a good hitter that he can, like, probably go in between, like, okay, I'm just going to go for a base hit here, or I'm looking for a base hit here, something else might happen. Or, you know what, I'm the 3rd batter and the first Mookie and Shohei got out. Yeah, maybe I'm looking to turn on one and take it over the fence. And I do think that, I don't know, like I said, even with the power numbers that he has had, I don't think he's ever considered himself a power hitter. But I do think that, chicks do still do the long ball sometimes.
Yeah, and the grand slam he hit on October 25th, all he needed was a single. He was in a situation where he was looking for a single and still got a pitch. He turned on it and destroyed it. Like, it could be really fun to watch Freddie this year.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. Last one real quick, Teo. No real changes. He's back, maybe a little bit more stability in his life, not being on a 1-year deal. Should be the number 4 spot the whole season. And playing right field, I know he said he feels more comfortable there. Not sure if that'll translate to the plate, but he had one of those no doubters on Sunday, and he's still fun to watch when he's hitting balls over the fence.
Absolutely. It's kind of funny. He's already hit into four double plays this spring. He only hit into 7 all year last year. So that's just a timing thing. You're rolling over pitches, but he sure did get the timing right on that home run. Last year, I think, was a career year for him. And you look at it was his career high in home runs. career, second best year in OPS plus, right up there. Like he's a good power hitter though. Like if you look at his 162 game averages, like a lot of the reason that last year was a career year was because he played 154 games. It's only the second time in his career that he's really been healthy in the lineup the whole year. And so if he could do that, like no reason to think his 162 game average for his career is 32 home runs, 96 RBIs, which is both right around what he did last year. So if he can stay healthy, stay in the lineup, seems like we could have a good year from Teo, and especially when you factor in that lineup protection you were talking about.
Yeah, I think last year one of my bold predictions was 6 players with 30 plus homers. They didn't quite get there, but if Freddie turns it on, and Max Muncy gets back and stays healthy,
and Mookie stays healthy.
Mookie stays healthy. I mean, that's 5 right there. Thank God Will Smith has a 6 last year, but maybe somebody steps up.
Conforto hit 20 for the Giants last year, playing in a terrible stadium. So
yeah. So, maybe not as bold, but I didn't think it was that bold last year, but it ended up being bold only for health reasons. So we'll see. But there is roster spots that we don't know what's going to happen, and we're still going to get into that because, we're getting closer to games mattering, and the Dodgers still have competitions going on. So we'll get into that. Make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And FanDuel is here to help you out. Let's just say, oh, man, I was busy. I forgot game started. I didn't get to put my bet in. Don't worry about it. FanDuel has live bets that you can put throughout the game. So even if you missed that opening tip-off or you think there's a fourth quarter comeback on the way, you can stay in the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. This is probably one of my favorite things to do when I'm just watching a game and, I think this team might come back, or this person got hurt. This person's probably going to start scoring a lot, or something of that nature that happens throughout the game, and you feel like you have a hunch. FanDuel is there. Use their live betting feature and, stay in the game even when the game is over. And you can check it out on the FanDuel app, which is very easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. So right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, go to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Well, thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, last listen of the day. If we are part of your day as a listen, we appreciate you. If we're not there for you 5 days a week already, if you're not an everydayer, you can become one by listening and watching every day. And you can make that easier on yourself by subscribing, get notified when episodes are ready, or if we're going live on YouTube and you want to check us out, in the moment. You can also check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles. Those are two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. All day, all night, got you covered for the biggest news stories in the sports world and the LA sports world. And Jeff, another weekend's gone by. We know that essentially 11 of the Dodgers' 13 position player spots are pretty locked up. There's a handful of guys going for those last 2 spots. We've talked about them, individually, collectively, whatever. But as one of the only real competitions in camp, we're going to talk about it again. And, we saw Hae-Sung Kim get his first home run of the spring. Maybe, that'll get him going. We've seen, James Outman, Andy Pages, David Bode hit another home run in one of the split squad games on Sunday. Chris Taylor, is still a guy that is out there and employed by the Dodgers. So, anything get you going yet as far as where the Dodgers should go, or are we just still in an evaluation?
I still in evaluation. I keep having a lot of thoughts. Like Hae-Sung Kim, I do kind of like my thought I had today watching him play was that the Dodgers are going to do what's best for his development more than what's best for the major league team. I think it's going to come down to, do they think it's going to be a better way for him to learn how to hit big league pitching? Would it be to work his way up first from AAA pitching and then to the big leagues, or just throw him into the fire and hit big league pitching? And I don't know the answer, and I don't even know if I have a strong opinion. Like, I think my gut instinct is work him up from AAA. there's no reason to start him in the big leagues if he can't hit big league pitching. He did hit a home run this weekend. I don't know how much the wind was
He swung
affected.
very late on a 92-mile-an-hour pitch. So
Yeah.
it was like not something that you see and you're like, oh, yeah, that was great. Like, no, he was pretty late on that pitch, whether he knew what it was or not. But, yeah.
Yeah. And so, that's kind of my gut instinct with Kim is that why force it in the big leagues when he can go down to AAA and velocity in AAA is pretty similar to the big leagues. It's more a command thing and stuff, guys. And so I think it might be a good stepping stone for him to, if it takes him a month to catch up to velocity, that might be a good place for it to happen.
Yeah, I think if a thought for him, also like with the center field thing, if they want him to learn or get more comfortable at center field and they want him to get used to velocity, AAA is fine. AAA, you're going to get velocity for the most part. You're still going to see upper, if anything, you might sometimes see more velocity. Sometimes with AAA relievers are just a bunch of guys that throw 98 to 100 that maybe can't place it where they want to place it, but they can throw it. You're not going to get the off-speed breaking stuff as much, but with him, it seems to be bat to ball and pitch recognition isn't the issue. It's mainly a whole swing revamp along with velocity. And honestly, yeah, I think AAA at this point makes the most sense, and it helps out the little bit of roster crunch on the major league side because, now you can't keep Kike and Rojas for sure. Taylor, if that's something you still believe in, or, gives a guy like David Bode a chance to see if this swing change is really something that we want to, the Dodgers want to keep seeing.
Yeah, and you mentioned we've got 11 of the 13 spots locked down. These 5 people we're talking about here, Kim, Outman, Pages, Taylor, and Bode, fighting for 2 spots. And I guess the easy answer is 3 of those guys have options. And technically Bode doesn't have options. He's a non-roster guy, so he can be sent to the minors. But Bode is the one of the 5 who's actually playing well this spring, who's actually saying, I would like to earn a spot on this team, sir. And so it's, his OPS has gone down since the last time we talked about it. It's down to 1,400 and something this spring,
How dare he?
Yeah. David Bode, and they've had him playing second base the last few days, which kind of tells me that they are seriously considering David Bode on this roster. We saw Tommy Edman. He had only played second base this spring, and now they've had him in center field a little bit. They've had Bode at second base to see, because like we've talked about before, last time Bode played second base regularly in the major leagues was 2022 before the shift was banned. And so we don't know for sure that he can play second base. They seem interested in finding out. And so I have a hard time right now picturing David Bode not being on the opening day roster, which then means 1 spot for Kim, Outman, Pages, or Taylor. And like I said last week, if they were starting from scratch, Chris Taylor's name would not even be in the conversation. We wouldn't even be discussing Chris Taylor as a possibility.
Yeah, I'm on record as saying they're probably going to give him some runway, but that's more me thinking, things they've done in the past or similar things they've done in the past. Pages, makes the most sense for the team offensively. He's been a guy that, you could maybe think of a sophomore slump, but I think he went through enough up and down last year that where, they kind of figured him out. He kind of figured it back out. At the very least, against lefties, he stayed pretty consistent throughout the whole year. I know, I think Blake Williams from Dodger Blue had mentioned Roberts had some praise for Pages, maybe kind of inkling that might mean that he's one of the guys in the lead for a spot on this roster. But yeah, Outman continues to strike out. Chris Taylor, when he does get a hit, it's mainly because, he hit it off the end of the bat or something like that. He's not hitting the ball hard. And Heston Kim, we already talked about, I think he could develop. So I think Pages and Bode make the most sense right now for the major league roster. And, for if you're trying to win games, the only way that doesn't happen is if, they go with a different way of rewarding a guy that's been on the team for a while or something like that. So.
Yeah. And there's so many ways to get a guy off the roster without just DFAing him, whether Chris Taylor, he's struggling so much right now. I think it's easy to make a case for you have a physical issue. And so, they could probably get away with putting him on the IL and say, you stay here in Arizona, get right physically, remember how to hit the ball, and we'll be in touch if that happens.
Yeah. A long flight from Japan hurt your back.
Yeah. Take him to Japan and then pull a Clayton Kershaw. Yeah, Outman has struck out in 43% of his at-bats. His plate appearances this spring. I know he had a triple on Sunday. I haven't seen it because it was at a game that wasn't televised by either team. But yeah, like, I don't know, James Outman and Chris Taylor both kind of fall into the category of, if not for history, we wouldn't be talking about them as possibilities.
Yeah, that's how it goes. And, they're still, about a week or less, about a week that they're still here before they head out to Japan.
A little over a week and a half or so.
Yeah, so there's still some answers to be had there. But, just based on everything that's gone on so far, we believe in Bode right now, and we'll see where that goes.
So you're saying Bode and Pawhead for those last two spots?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think that's what I'm saying too. The most interesting part is, how do they make that happen with Chris Taylor?
Yeah, it contradicts my Chris Taylor point that I made before, but this is what I would think is going to happen, or what I want to happen, what should happen, rather than what I think is going to happen. So,
yeah.
The Dodgers did make some cuts, though. There are some guys that won't be on the opening day roster, barring some crazy things that happen the next couple weeks. So we'll talk about that, why some of them got sent down. Does it really matter? At the end of the day, we'll get into it. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. We want to thank you for listening to Locked On Dodgers. We want to thank you for being an everydayer, someone that listens or watches every day. We appreciate those of you that are with us 5 days a week. And if you're not one of those, try and do so. Where it's only 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. It's not too much of your time. Or if you only listen a couple times a week, maybe just add an episode and get to that 3, 4, 5 mark, and then all the way, you'll find yourself getting to the 5 mark once we get into season, I would hope. And you'll be on the podcast, come Locked On Dodgers Insider, by going to join subtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. Get text directly from us, keeping you up to date with the Dodgers, keeping you up to date with our show. And you get a link to a Discord server with other Dodgers fans that you can talk to throughout games or the spring or when news breaks and all that type of stuff. So go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. And Jeff, the Dodgers made the first round of cuts. After these cuts, there's still 59 players left in big league camp. They'll have to get it down to probably around 30, 32 to travel, but 26 once we get to opening day. But the first round of cuts is Nick Frasso, Carlos Duran, Julian Fernandez, Justin Jarvis, and then position players Ryan Ward, Justin Dean, Zaire Hope, and Josue de Paula. No surprises at all here, but we'll still see some of these guys in camp, and some of these guys that we did get to see, especially Hope and de Paula. It's just fun to see what can come down the pipeline for the Dodgers in the future, while still being excited about what's going on right now.
Yeah, you can kind of lump these 7 guys. Is that what we? Yeah, into a couple different, or 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 8 guys. Lump them into a few different categories. You've got the young guys who are a part of the Dodgers' future. That's Frasso, it's Carlos Duran, it's Zaire Hope, and it's Josue de Paula. Those are guys. These are legitimate prospects, guys who the Dodgers expect to contribute sometime in the next couple of years. And, for them, it's okay, go to minor league camp where you can be getting 3 to 4 plate appearances in every game. You can really start, it's fun to be a non-roster invitee, to be with the big league team, to be playing, sitting in the same dugout as Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts. But their job right now is development.
Yeah, they're playing 5-6 innings now. So you're coming in for maybe one at bat.
Exactly. Yeah. As the starters start playing more of the game, there's just not going to be those at bats there. And so Zaire Hope has been so much fun to watch this spring, was never an option to actually make the opening day roster at his age and at his experience level. Absolutely. I expect him to be in AA this year and maybe even up to AAA. It would take a really monster season to get him to the big leagues this year, and definitely not anywhere near opening day. Josue de Paula, similar situation. Nick Frasso coming back from injury, similar situation. Carlos Duran also coming back from injury. So a lot of that you can lump those guys together. If these guys are part of the future, then you got guys who just absolutely aren't part of the future. Ryan Ward, I'm sorry, I know you hit 33 home runs in the minors last year. you're 27 years old and bad at baseball. And no offense, if Ryan Ward's mom is listening, I'm sorry. But yeah, and he's not a part of the Dodgers' future.
Yeah, I mean, last year would have been the best chance for him to make it to the majors, and it wasn't even really mentioned or considered. He's a guy that, a AAA player, good with the power. I think he had some big homers for Team USA in one of the tournaments over the winter or in the fall, whatever it was. But I mean, guys like him that people see put up the numbers and think, oh man, why don't they give him a chance? But realistically, there's a reason for it most of the time. And the Dodgers, I mean, even this spring, like, he hasn't been good at all this spring, and he's gotten a handful of plate appearances here and there. So yeah, those are just guys that who's the other outfit? Drew Avens, like guys like that. They're just like, it would take a lot for them to get a cup of coffee with the Dodgers. They could maybe find themselves on another team and could find themselves in the majors at some point. But with the Dodgers, it's a huge climb.
Yeah, Justin Dean is another guy who got sent down. He's a guy I wish he could hit, because the dude can play defense. Like, he is fun to watch in center field. If we could DH, have him play defense and Andy Pages bat, maybe there's something there. But
I wonder if he was not fast when he was younger, because how do you not bat lefty when you have that speed?
Yeah. Although I don't know, by the time you know how fast you are, you're kind of locked in on handedness. I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about nurture versus nature when it comes to handedness lately. But dude is fast. He can play really good defense. He's fun to watch out there. But being that good on defense and still never having made it to the big leagues at his age kind of tells you everything you know about Justin Dean. And so I hope the folks in Oklahoma City have a lot of fun watching him play center field this year.
Yeah, and who else? Justin Jarvis. We talked about him last week, and when we talked about Julian Fernandez, specifically when it came to stolen bases allowed. So, yeah, those guys, they're just there to fill some innings, because in the early parts of the game, you're only throwing guys one inning at a time, and you're not throwing every pitcher all the time. So they're going to go down. They're going to pitch in the minors, maybe, wherever they end up in the Dodgers system. But no surprises, nothing special.
Yeah, Jarvis has pitched in AAA the last 2 years in the Mets system, and hasn't been good either time. Doesn't mean that there's not a potential. He's still relatively young. He just turned 25 a couple of weeks ago. And so, maybe the Dodgers should turn him into something, but right now, he's not anything. And Julian Fernandez, I don't know why I have this anti-Julian Fernandez sentiment in my heart. But whatever it is, I'm like, okay, if I never see Julian Fernandez in a game again, he's actually pitched in the big leagues, right?
Yeah.
Oh, not since 2021 with the Rockies. And I mean, he's just, I guess he's almost 30. Yeah, he's almost 30, and he's pitched 6 games in the big leagues. Just a non-factor, congratulations on getting an invite to big league camp. But Julian Fernandez, this might be the last time we ever say his name on this podcast.
Yeah, probably, hopefully, at least, for I guess we've said that before, and guys have made surprising trips to the majors, but I don't think that's happening here.
And every once in a while, a player will actually, I always go back on our old podcast in 2016 when the Dodgers made the Chris Taylor trade. And I made some snarky comment about, well, guess we better mention this trade just so that we can say we've said the name Chris Taylor one time on this podcast. And then he actually turned into a really good player for a few years. Mm-hmm. And but so maybe they'll do that again. Max Muncy, remember the first time we mentioned him in 2018? How did I refer to him, Vince? Do you remember?
I don't remember that one. He's
a barrel-chested young man. And, it turns out he used that barrel chest to hit a bunch of home runs for the Dodgers. Every once in a while, guys surprise us. But I suspect Julian Fernandez won't be one of those guys.
Yeah. Before we get out, there is a question here that actually we talked about before. Concern for Smith's lagging injury with the bone bruise. Good time to bring in rushing. So we got a little bit more details about Will Smith's injury. Heard it in the New York series last June on a slide. and been a bone bruise that just hasn't gone away. There's always concern, but the fact that it's a bone bruise, I don't think you can really make it worse, and I don't think there's really a way to make it better. So it's just kind of there. He's had time to deal with it. He's had time to try to figure out how to work his swing or whatever. He didn't blame his second half last year on the swing. He said it was on mechanics, which might have been because his compromised with the ankle, but hopefully he's figured it out.
So you froze up for me. I don't know if you froze up for everybody, but anyway, it's hopefully it really was just a mechanical thing that wasn't related to the bone bruise. But like you said, there is no easy fix for a bone bruise. It's not like you can go and have surgery and remove the bruise. That's not how bruises work. And so, he's just going to have to play through it and maybe get more time off. And maybe that will push them to pull the trigger on making Dalton Rushing the backup, like we've talked about, if they decide, okay, Freddie's going to take a day off every week and Shohei's going to take a day off every week and Smith's going to have 2 days off every week, then it makes sense to have a guy like Rushing as your backup catcher who can get those 4 starts and while still keeping up with his development. But in the end, it's tough to say if they're going to get to that point. Hopefully Will Smith will just he won't be slotted in the cleanup spot like he was last year. So maybe that helps, dropping him down to 6th and just kind of saying, just relax, just go out there and bat 280 and hit 22 homers for us, and we'll be just fine.
Yeah, go back to, the Will Smith that we got before, and that'll be fine. And, he did have some big homers for the Dodgers in the postseason. So, the power is still there when he can get to it or when his swing lines up. And hopefully, like I said, at the very least, he's learned to deal with the ankle in regards to his swing mechanics. And that might be just what he needs to have anyway. So,
yeah.
All right, Jeff, anything else before we get out of here?
To our buddy Richard Flores, watching from Mesa, Arizona. I wish Richie was still going to be in Arizona when I get down there later this week, but he's not. So that's a bummer. Happy birthday again to my son Logan, 18 years old. I know I don't look old enough to have two adult children.
2 adults. That's crazy.
Look at that. If you want to Venmo Logan some birthday cash, my Venmo is the same as my Twitter handle. It's right there on the screen right now. I'm just saying.
There you go. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us over at podcast and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can become an everydayer by listening and watching every day, which can be made easier by subscribing to get notified when our episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube. You can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. You can go beyond the podcast, come Locked On Dodgers Insider by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. Get text directly from us and stay up to date on the Dodgers without having to be on social media all day. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff's on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us with any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, text My Device Play Podcast. Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.